Hello and welcome to another video, and after a month with the system, I'm finally ready to review the Switch 2 and give my opinion and my thoughts on should you buy one right now, should you wait, what is the ultimate reason for. I'm going to go through the pros and the cons of the system, what I think of it, what I like about it, what I dislike about it. So let's go over the pros of the system and what I do like about the system. One of the big things I like, and I shared this on a recent episode of the podcast. So I have the system right here. This is your Switch 2. One of the big things that I like about this system is the new Joy-Cons, which if you can see on the back here, you click this little lever right here, you pull the Joy-Con off as such, and I'll try to bring it up to the mic, see if it comes through. That's how it slams on. I think that's fantastic. One other thing I want to point out about the system, it feels premium. When you pick this thing up, and I think what really helped me understand how premium this thing feels is earlier in the day, I had to sit down and I had to wipe and clear off all the memory and transfer all my data up into the cloud to pull it down for the Switch 2. And I traded in my original Switch because at this point I don't have a need for it. Doing that and using the original Switch after not using it for a while and then pulling it up here, it was so much of an improvement just feeling the system, using it and going, I don't think I could go back to playing on an original Switch now just for how premium this thing feels. Looking over the machine itself, it works. This is going to be one thing I think some people are going to choose as a pro, some people choose as a con. I'm going to put it as a pro, but it works identical to the original Switch. So you can kind of see here in the video that I have pulled up here, this is this is what the dash looks like. It is incredibly quick. It's incredibly fast, light years beyond the original hardware. One other thing I will say is that when you want to go to the online store, which is a little cumbersome to get to, but when you want to go to that store, it's incredibly fast. You don't have to wait a year to have it load up, and then it runs like molasses anymore, which I think is awesome. As far as all of that is concerned, fantastic. Zero problems. I also like the new kickstand. I'll pull it out here. The new kickstand, you can kind of go all the way back and lay it down, pull it forward, but it has a really nice, satisfying snap to it that works really, really well. All those things, fantastic, tremendous. High improvements over the original Switch. And I think, again, for the actual handheld unit, for the Joy-Cons, I didn't bring in here, but the little attachment to put the Joy-Cons to use a controller also works really well. All of that, high praise. I think that part of the hardware is really, really good. We're going to put an asterisk on that because we're going to get to another part of the hardware that I dislike, and we'll talk about that in the cons of the system. I have to mention here, one of the other big surprising things that works extremely well for this system in a way that I was not anticipating or expecting is transferring your data. I expected this to be a disaster. Now, I will note here, I am not one of the Switch users that have spent the last 8 years of gaming on the machine like a lot of people out there, so I probably don't have as much data to transfer over as a lot of other people do, but the entire process to upload it, and when I got my new Switch, got home to download it, both ways, 20 minutes. And I thought that was really impressive. And I mean, well, I will say, like, I don't have as much data as a lot of people. I still had a substantial amount of data to transfer. When it is all done, though, I will say you do have to re-download each and every digital game you had installed. And that does take some time. But again, high pro here on this thing. And using the machine, playing the machine, it's for all of those intents and purposes, it's great. One thing I will note for this review, I have not played any games online. I just haven't had the opportunity. I do know there are some people that are upset with what's going on with Mario Kart World and the online, but I don't have any horse in that race, so I can't comment on that. The only online thing I've done is I did upgrade to the expansion pack so I could play GBA games, the GameCube games that came out. I will say I have not messed with the GameCube games because the GameCube game I want to be on the service is not on there yet, which is Luigi's Mansion, the original. I want to play through all 3 Luigi's Mansion games. I finally got a copy of 2 for the correct price that I wanted to pay for it. So at some point I'm going to sit down and play through all 3 of those games in succession. I've never done that. And with the exception, I played the original Luigi's Mansion when it came out on the GameCube. I did not. I had Dark Moon, but I didn't play much of it on the 3DS. I did start Luigi's Mansion 3, never finished it. So at this point, I'd rather just go back to the beginning, play through all 3 in succession. I think that'd be a lot more fun. So, but I haven't touched any of the GameCube emulation. I have messed with GBA emulation, and I know that was already present for the original Switch, but that stuff is good and impressive. I actually started playing Golden Sun for the first time, which is a game I've never played back in the day. So really enjoying my time with that. So with all of those things being said, let's talk about the cons of the system. And I said I wanted to put an asterisk in the hardware section. And the reason I do is because, well, I think that the hardware of the actual physical unit is very, very premium. I cannot say the same for this dock. For starters, I'll try and put it over here so you guys can see. Look at how flimsy this is. When I press in, that's too flimsy, and I'm not applying this much pressure to it. But I do not like how flimsy that is. Another thing I don't like, this back door. So this back door, it just pops off like this, and it comes off. It comes off really easy. Thankfully, I'm one of the people that don't have the problem where it doesn't want to stay on and connected, but I have seen other users that have had that problem, and that sucks. But this dock itself, I think, could have been so much better. It does not feel premium in the way that the system, the handheld system itself does. That was disappointment number 1. I did get rid of my original Pro Controller and I bought the new Pro Controller because I figured at this point, if I'm going to go in, I'm going to go all in on this thing, right? I'm not going to make it a real. I'm saying it at the cons part. I don't think it's con because the more I've used it, the more I've come accustomed to it. But one problem I have is that controller feels really slippery in my hand. It doesn't have any kind of textured grip or anything like that, in which the original Pro Controller did have a little bit of a texture to it. So it just feels kind of slippery when I use that controller. But the more I've used that controller, the more I've become accustomed to it, and I do really like it. They did also add 2 trigger buttons on each of the back panels of that controller that can be configured. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's something that people should be discussing, that are fully programmable, which I think is awesome. And then obviously the bigger, to address the real elephant in the room here, as far as like cons go for this system, the biggest con I can put out there is the launch itself. A lot of us waited, it's been 8 years since the original Switch launched in March of 2017. The original Switch launched 2 weeks before I launched this YouTube channel. And when I started this channel, I was very Switch centric. I was very positive on the Switch. I did a lot of capturing footage and talking about games like that first year and a half of the Switch. And then I fell off of it because unfortunately that hardware really it just got outpaced really fast in a big way. And so with this machine, I hope the same doesn't happen for it. With everything that I'm saying here, the biggest disappointment for the Switch 2 launch is lack of new games. There's a confusion around games. There's this game keycard situation we've talked about on the podcast, but I personally, and I've said this on the podcast, I'm saying this in this video, for the Switch 2, for anything that's a Switch 2 game, I've decided just to 100% go into it all digital. I'll still buy original Switch games and stuff for my shelf, but for the Switch 2, because of the game keycard, because of the fact, is it a physical card disc, that you're holding in your hand, cartridge, whatever? Sure, but there's nothing on it. It's just like if you were to go and buy a physical copy of Starfield, which all those pretty much got destroyed. those copies of that game, they're worthless. There's nothing on the disc. And there are other games that were released like that, you know, but the point being, I don't find any reason to own a game key card. And there's so much confusion around game key cards. Oh no, this one isn't a game key card, that I was like, I'm not even going to mess with this, man. I'm just going to straight up go all digital. So this is the first system that I'll truly be all digital on. Does it suck? Absolutely. I'm obviously, you can see behind me, you'll see probably in this video as well. So I'll show a shot of my Switch collection. I'm a physical collector. That's what I like to do. And so I don't like making decisions like that, but at the same time, I just don't see the value in a game key card. That's a big con for this system. Another big con for this system is, like I said, when it launched Mario Kart World, and that's kind of it. I did not buy the Welcome Tour because I feel like the Welcome Tour is not worth $10. That should be a pack-in that everybody gets for the Switch 2. I mean, it's literally a demo of how to use the new features of the Switch 2. I'm not paying $10 for something that should be free, so I passed on that. And that's kind of the only other game was the new Fast RMX guy. I think it's Fast Fusion. Is that what's called? You know what? I can Switch is right here. I can boot it up, make sure I get the title of that game correct. Here is Fast Fusion. I was correct. That's the only game I have for it. I was a huge fan of Fast RMX when it came out, the original Switch. And remember, there was no Mario Kart right when Switch launched. I believe Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out like a month or two later. So I played a lot of Fast RMX, or was it Fast Remix? Whatever it was called. I think it is Fast RMX. I played a lot of that game on the Switch, and I played quite a bit of Fast Fusion, and I think that game also really, really good. A lot of graphical options, which it's weird. One of the weirdest things on this system is to see on a Nintendo platform games that have graphical options. It's kind of weird. Mario Kart World looks tremendous. I think it's a great Mario Kart game. Time will tell where it falls in line with like my love for Mario Kart 8, which I think is probably my favorite Mario Kart of all time. I think that game dethroned Mario Kart 64 for me as my favorite Mario Kart game of all time. But we'll see where Mario Kart World aligns at some point. I really need to spend more time with it. We're just in this weird place for games right now where it's like I'm in the middle of playing Death Stranding 2 right now. That's kind of the big game I've been waiting for. After that, I want to finally play Clair Obscur. I have not played that game yet. It's been sitting on my shelf for 2 months now. We have Mafia: The Old Country in a couple weeks. I plan on looking at that. Tony Hawk is out like probably a few days from the time of posting this video. Like, it's a weird time for games. So, and I'm trying my best to play these things and get opinions out there on them, but it can be overwhelming for sure. So, the only other things I've really tried on the Switch 2, I did download and install the Switch 2 upgrade of Tears of the Kingdom, and I can say like that is a really, really big upgrade for that game. And I think the biggest thing I came away from looking at that specifically was I'm probably going to restart Tears of the Kingdom from the beginning and just start over because I cannot remember what I was even doing in that game. And I spent a good 50 hours in it, but it's such a substantial upgrade to how that game works and plays that I think I'd rather just start over. And so that's something I'm saving for the next time we have a good lull in games, where there's not a lot of stuff coming out that I'm interested in playing. So at that point, I'll look at that then. And this boils down to kind of, I guess, the end of this review is for me. So there's a couple different categories of, I think, how the Switch 2, how I would recommend it to somebody. And this is the same way I put it on the podcast when I first got the system. And my opinion really hasn't changed in the first month of having this machine. I think if you're somebody who has spent the last 8 years playing on the Switch and you played every game as it came out, and you are a big Switch person, you love the Switch, and you've played everything, I can't tell you I would recommend running out and buying this machine right now, because unless you're a diehard Mario Kart fan, there isn't anything else I can recommend. I mean, Fast Fast Fusion is cool, but that's a $15 downloadable game, right? Donkey Kong is coming out in a couple weeks. I mean, personally, I don't even know if I'm going to buy Donkey Kong right away. Like, I'll probably just wait and play that later because I don't know. I look at that game and go, hey, it looks kind of cool, but I don't know. There's other stuff I want to play right now, and I'm not in a rush to play it. But I do think it's smart for Nintendo to kind of stagger out these releases so Switch owners have something to play. And Mario Kart's a game that a lot of Switch 2 owners will return to. But if you're that person and you are looking to have a couple games to play at launch, I would wait until maybe this fall, the holiday season, or even after. Maybe give it a full year treatment and then pick up a Switch 2, because while it is the new Switch and while it does feel better, it operates better, it feels like a premium product to me personally. This is more of the Switch Pro than it is a Switch 2. Like the next evolution of what Nintendo's trying to do. This just feels like the Switch upgrade we've all been waiting for, but it also, I think, plays it too safe if you're the kind of person that was looking for a more meaningful update to the machine. So for the diehard Switch people, or the people that played everything there, maybe hold off and wait a little bit. And this is a big caveat, if you're in the boat that I'm in, where I stopped playing Switch in like 2021, and just, I kept buying, I literally would buy every exclusive game. I mean, even last fall, I bought Brothership on launch day. Like, I bought pretty much every major Switch release as it came out, because first of all, Switch games never go on sale. Like, Nintendo stuff never goes on sale unless you find a Woot deal or something. Those games never go on sale. If they do, it's like maybe from 60 down to 40. And now you also have the whole ordeal with pricing on games and stuff, which makes it even more of kind of a hassle. But for me, it was an easy buy because I've kind of been waiting for this system to come out so I can go back and play this big backlog of games that I have. So I look at this thing as a Switch Pro, and oh shit, I have a ton of games that I haven't opened. There's a ton of games I haven't played that I'd like to try and play. And so for me, it's a no-brainer, because I have all this stuff. But I think a lot of Switch owners have probably already played a lot of the games, and so they're not going to fall into that weird category. But if you're like me and you were doing that, highly recommended, just simply because it does really feel like a very highly upgraded Switch in that regard. So that's kind of my review. I'm not going to give this machine like a letter grade, or I'm actually going to be changing back to numbers, I think, because I think letter grades are kind of lame. But I'm not going to give it any kind of grade, because I feel it's kind of silly to do that. It's better to just talk about, like, do I recommend it? And like I said, I recommend it with an asterisk next to it of, like, if you are a Switch owner that's played everything, maybe wait a year. If you're like me and you bought every game, but you kind of just let them collect on a shelf, waiting for the next system to play them through backwards compatibility, then I think it's time. I could honestly say, like, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we know now that, in the first, 3 or 4 days, the system sold 3.5 million units. So, like, it was a massive success. But I will say what's funny is I was lucky enough to get a reserve for mine, and I was able to go and pick it up. No hassles, whatever. And then later that day, and here's the funny thing is, I wasn't able to go get my system that Thursday on launch. I had to wait till Saturday. Between work and everything, I just did not have the time. That was one reason I really wanted to reserve the machine. But the funny thing is, later in the day, I had stopped at my local Walmart, and I noticed, like, they still had not the bundle with Mario Kart World, but the regular Switch 2s were still available. So I'll give Nintendo massive credit here. Like, they actually had this thing on lockdown and ready to be sold at launch. I feel like anybody that really wanted to get a Switch 2 probably was able to get it pretty easily in comparison to when the Series X and the PS5 came out, which I feel, especially for the PS5, that thing was a disaster. If I hadn't got the reserve that I had for PS5 at launch, I would not have gotten one for probably 2 years. Like, that's how ridiculous it was. So, yeah, I say all this to say, those are my thoughts on the system. I'm enjoying my time with it, but I really wish Kojima would have waited maybe another month to put Death Stranding 2 out, because that's kind of been eating up a lot of my time right now. So anyways, I'd love to know in the comments below, what do you guys think about the Switch 2? Did you get one? Do you like it? Are you enjoying your time with it? And otherwise, stay tuned in the channel. I have some more things coming up here. I will do a review of Death Stranding 2 when I finish it. That's the keywords there, is when I finish it. But I'm really taking my time with that game, really enjoying it. And I will also talk about Tony Hawk. I might actually stream some Tony Hawk because it does have a stream-friendly mode with generic music, which we'll see. So I might do something with that this week, but always stay tuned. Always look for the podcast 572. That's where you can keep up to date on the most things that I'm doing and playing, along with my co-host as well. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.